Imagine waking up one day and every word you know has disappeared, not just the ability to speak. Every word, every label, every name, gone. You can't say water. You can't say danger. You can't say help. You're standing in a world full of other humans, and you need to survive together. You need to warn them. You need to connect with them. You need to tell them something important is coming. What do? This isn't just a thought experiment. This was the actual reality of our ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. Long before words existed, long before sentences, long before any language as we know it today, humans were communicating. They were building relationships. They were surviving together. They were passing down knowledge across generations. And here's the part that will genuinely change how you think about communication forever. The tools they used weren't just primitive backups until language arrived. Some of them were so powerful, so deeply wired into our biology that we still use them today, right now, in conversations you had this morning, in moments you didn't even notice. So the real question isn't just how did ancient humans communicate before language existed? The real question is, what does that tell us about what communication actually is at its core? Let's go back, way back. We're talking roughly 300,000 years ago. Homo sapiens had just appeared on the planet. Before that, earlier human species had been around for millions of years. These were intelligent creatures. They used tools. They cared for their sick. They buried their dead. Evidence shows they felt grief, fear, loyalty, and affection. But language, true symbolic language where sounds carry meaning by agreement, that didn't exist yet. Or if it did exist in very early forms, it was nothing like what you and I use today. So how did they do it? How did a group of early humans coordinate a hunt involving multiple people moving in different directions, timing an attack, surrounding prey? How did a mother teach her child which berries were safe and which ones would kill them? How did groups of strangers decide whether to trust each other or fight each other? The answer starts with something you already know how to do without thinking: the face. Scientists who study the evolution of human communication consistently point to facial expressions as one of the oldest and most universal forms of human communication that exists. And here's what makes this genuinely remarkable. The core facial expressions, fear, anger, disgust, surprise, happiness, sadness, these are not culturally learned. They are biological, hardwired. Studies done with people who were born blind, people who had never seen another human face in their lives, show that they make the same facial expressions in emotional situations as sighted people do. They scrunch their face in disgust. They smile when they win something. They raise their eyebrows in surprise. Nobody taught them that. It came from inside. This means that somewhere in our ancient past, these expressions evolved because they worked. They communicated critical survival information faster than any other method available. A face showing fear in a group would immediately alert everyone else without a single sound. A face showing disgust warned others away from something dangerous. A face showing calm and openness signaled safety. Your ancestors were reading each other's faces for survival long before words existed, and your brain still does this automatically today. You walk into a room and within milliseconds, without conscious effort, you are scanning faces and reading the emotional temperature of the space. That skill is ancient. That skill kept your ancestors alive. But facial expressions were only one piece of the puzzle. Let's talk about something that might surprise you. Sound, but not words. Before language, early humans were not silent. Not at all. They were likely quite loud. They used vocalizations, sounds that carry emotional and situational meaning without being structured language. Think about the sounds humans naturally make that aren't words. The gasp of sudden shock, the deep exhale of relief, the sharp cry of pain, the low hum of comfort, the grunt of effort, the shriek of genuine terror. These sounds are not random. They are cross-cultural and cross-species. Animals use them too. A dog whimpering communicates distress in a way that humans across the world understand without any training. A baby crying triggers a stress response in adults who have never met that baby. Early humans likely used a rich palette of these sounds combined with facial expressions and gestures to communicate complex situations. Danger from that direction. Come here. Back off. I'm hurt. This is good. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Researchers studying primate communication found that our closest relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, use a remarkably sophisticated system of gestures and vocalizations to communicate. They point. They reach out. They use eye contact intentionally. They gesture toward objects they want others to look at. Pointing might sound simple, but it's actually a profound cognitive act. When you point at something, you're not just drawing attention to it. You're asking someone else to share your mental focus. You're saying, look at what I'm looking at. Think about what I'm thinking about. That's a form of shared consciousness. Our ancient ancestors were doing this. They were pointing, gesturing, and establishing shared attention long before they had words to match those gestures. Think about how much you still communicate with gesture today. You wave someone over, you hold up a hand to say stop, you shrug, you nod, you tilt your head. In some conversations, gesture carries more meaning than the actual words being spoken. That's not just a habit. That's millions of years of communication evolution still alive in your body. But here's where the story goes even deeper. There's a form of pre-language communication that most people completely overlook, and it might be the most powerful one of all. Touch. Long before humans could say, "I'm here, you're safe, I care about you," they could communicate all of that through physical contact. A hand on the shoulder, a firm embrace during fear. Grooming behavior, where early humans would carefully pick through each other's hair, wasn't just hygiene, it was social bonding. It was a physical signal of trust, of alliance, of safety. Primatologists who study great ape social structures found that the time spent in grooming behavior directly correlates with the strength of social bonds. Groups that groom together are groups that fight together, protect each other, and survive together. Oxytocin, the chemical in your brain often called the bonding hormone, is released through physical touch. It lowers anxiety, it increases trust, it creates a feeling of connection and safety. Your ancient ancestors were literally triggering each other's neurochemistry through touch to build the social bonds that made group survival possible. And again, this ancient system is still running in you. A handshake with a stranger increases their sense of trust toward you. A hug from someone you love triggers real biochemical changes that reduce your stress response. Holding someone's hand during something frightening actually reduces the brain's perception of threat. You are still using a 300,000-year-old communication system right now. Now let's talk about something that is harder to define but impossible to ignore. Rhythm and music. Before language, before structured music as we know it, there was rhythm. Researchers believe that early humans discovered rhythm through their environment. The rhythm of walking, the rhythm of repetitive work, the rhythm of heartbeats, and they began to recreate it intentionally. Percussion, hitting objects together or against the ground to create rhythmic sound, is considered one of the most ancient human behaviors. And rhythm does something extraordinary to human brains. It synchronizes them. When a group of people move in sync to the same rhythm, their brains literally begin to operate in a more coordinated way. Neurological research shows that rhythmic synchrony increases cooperation, increases positive feelings toward the people you're synchronized with, and even increases pain tolerance. This is why military groups throughout history have marched in unison. This is why religious rituals across every known culture involve rhythmic chanting or music. This is why dancing together creates feelings of connection with strangers. Early humans discovered, perhaps by accident at first, that moving and making sounds together created something powerful. It turned a collection of individuals into something that felt more like a unified group. Before language could say, "We are one people, we are one tribe," rhythm could make humans feel it. That's fascinating when you think about it. But here's where it gets even stranger. Scientists studying human evolutionary biology have proposed something called the music before language hypothesis. Some researchers argue that early humans developed musicality as a communication system before they developed true symbolic language. They believe that proto-language, the earliest forms of communication that eventually evolved into speech, was more song-like than speech-like, more melodic, more emotional, more rhythm-based. There's a reason lullabies exist in every human culture. There's a reason people across the world instinctively use a higher rhythmic melodic tone when speaking to babies. That vocal pattern, what researchers call infant-directed speech or motherese, is designed to communicate safety, attention, and love before the child can understand a single word. You're not using language, you're using music. And babies respond to it immediately because that system is older than words. It goes deeper than words. Now let's bring this all together, because the picture that emerges here is genuinely remarkable. Before language existed, your ancient ancestors had a full, complex, multi-layered communication system that included universal facial expressions carrying instant emotional information, vocalizations and sounds that conveyed urgency, pain, comfort, and warning, gesture and pointing that created shared attention and shared thinking, touch that built trust, bonded groups, and regulated emotions, and rhythm and proto-music that synchronized group behavior and created tribal identity. This system was sophisticated enough to coordinate group hunts, sophisticated enough to teach survival skills to children, sophisticated enough to negotiate relationships between strangers, sophisticated enough to build social hierarchies and maintain group cohesion across thousands of generations. And here's the part that I think is the most mind-expanding piece of this entire story. Language didn't replace this system, it was added to it. When true symbolic language eventually emerged, somewhere between 50,000 and 200,000 years ago, depending on which researchers you consult, it didn't erase the older systems. It layered on top of them. All those ancient forms of communication, the facial expressions, the touch, the gesture, the vocalization, they were still there. Language just gave humans an additional tool that allowed for entirely new kinds of thinking and communication. The ability to talk about things that aren't present, to describe the past, to imagine and discuss the future, to create abstract concepts like justice or loyalty or tomorrow. These were revolutions in human cognition. But they were revolutions built on a foundation that had been evolving for millions of years. This is why research consistently shows that in human communication, the actual words we use carry only a fraction of the total meaning being exchanged. The rest comes from tone of voice, which is vocalization, body language and gesture, facial expression, the physical space and touch involved in the interaction. Your brain didn't get the update that says words are everything now. It's still running the ancient operating system underneath, still scanning faces, still reading body language, still responding to rhythm and tone and touch as powerfully as it ever did. Think about the last time someone said, "I'm fine," in a tone that made it completely clear they were not fine. You knew. You didn't need analysis. The ancient system in your brain read the vocalization, the face, the posture, and it told you the truth that the words were hiding. That's not intuition. That's evolution. Think about why video calls feel more exhausting than in-person conversation. It's because the ancient communication channels are partially blocked. You can see the face but not the body. You can hear the voice but not feel the physical presence. Your brain is trying to read a communication system that's suddenly incomplete, and that effort is draining. Think about why text messages so frequently get misinterpreted. Because text carries only the words. The oldest and deepest layers of human communication are completely absent. Your brain is trying to understand someone using only 1% of the system it evolved to use. We think of language as the pinnacle of human communication, and in many ways it is. But the most primal, most deeply felt, most emotionally real moments of human connection happen in channels that predate language entirely. When someone holds your hand in a scary moment, when someone looks at you across a room and you know exactly what they're thinking, when music makes you feel something so deep that no words exist to describe it, when a room full of people laughing together creates a feeling of warmth and belonging that can't be explained, when a parent makes eye contact with their newborn child for the first time and something passes between them that doesn't require a single word. Those are the ancient systems activating. Those are the original languages of the human species. Still alive, still powerful, still the deepest channels through which humans connect to each other. And here's what I want you to take away from all of this. We live in a world that increasingly privileges text, emails, messages, social media posts, words on screens, and those things have tremendous value. Language is extraordinary. But if we become so focused on what we say that we forget how much of human communication exists beneath the words, we risk losing something ancient and essential. The next time you're in a conversation that matters, notice what's happening beyond the words. Notice the tone. Notice the face. Notice how close or far the person is standing. Notice whether they're leaning in or pulling back. Notice what your own body is doing in response. That information is as real and as meaningful as anything being said out loud. Your ancient ancestors couldn't speak, but they understood each other deeply. They survived together. They bonded together. They built the social foundations that eventually allowed civilization to emerge. They did all of that using systems that are still running inside you right now. Language is incredible, but it was never the whole story of how humans communicate. It's just the newest chapter in a story that started millions of years ago, written not in words but in faces, in touch, in sound, in rhythm, and in the silent, wordless understanding that has always been the heartbeat of what it means to be human. So here's something worth thinking about. If you could choose one of these ancient forms of communication that you feel you've forgotten how to use properly, which one would it be? Is it touch? Is it truly reading the faces of the people you love? Is it something else? Think about that. Because understanding how your ancestors communicated might just teach you something about how you connect with the people in your life right now. If this video made you think about communication differently, if it gave you something new to sit with, then this channel is exactly where you belong. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And share this with someone you think would find it fascinating, because some ideas are worth passing on, even without words.